Lesson 4.1 on unit rates. We'll first start off with 3 keywords and then do a few examples together. The first keyword is ratio. What is a ratio? A ratio is a comparison of 2 quantities. You're comparing 2 quantities by division, and those quantities can have either the same or different units. And there are 3 possible ways that we could write a ratio. We could use words, something like 3 to 4. 3 to 4, just use words. We could use a colon, 3:4, which we also read as 3 to 4. Or we could write the ratio as a fraction, like 3 to 4. And in this case, we would read the horizontal fraction bar as 2, 3 to 4. So those are the 3 ways to write a ratio. The next keyword is complex fraction. What is a complex fraction? Well, it's a fraction that has a fraction in its numerator, denominator, or both. And so there's a fraction in the top, the bottom, or there's a fraction in the top and the bottom of the fraction. And so we could have something like 1/2 over 3. That would be an example of a fraction in the numerator. We could have something like -6 over 2/5. That would be an example of a complex fraction where the fraction is in the denominator. Or we could have a fraction in the numerator and the denominator, something like 1/2 over 1/3 would also be a complex fraction. Okay. Last keyword we'll talk about in this lesson is unit rate. Unit rate. A unit rate is a comparison of 2 quantities that have different units and a denominator of 1. They have different units and a denominator of 1. We could also say that a unit rate is a special ratio. It is a ratio, but it is unique because you're comparing values with different units and the denominator is 1. Okay, so if we had a rate like 60 miles per 2 hours, if you travel 60 miles in 2 hours, this would be a rate because you're comparing different quantities. It's just not a unit rate because a unit rate has a denominator or a bottom number of 1. And so we could get this to have a bottom number of 1 because we could also read this fraction bar as divided by. So 60 divided by 2, well, that would be 30, right? So if you're traveling 60 miles in 2 hours, that means your average rate of speed or your unit rate is 30 miles per hour, mph. That would be a unit rate. Okay, let's do a few examples. In number 1, you are asked, is this ratio a rate? 5 hours to 12 hours. Is this a rate? You should answer no, right? It's not a rate. And why? Why is it not a rate? Well, a rate must have different units. This ratio has the same units. And so no, it's not a rate because it does not compare values with different units. It does not compare values with different units, right? They have the same unit. Example B, 50 yards per 18 seconds. Is this a rate? Is this ratio a rate? Well, you should say yes, right? This is a rate because you're comparing values with different units, yards to seconds in this case. It wouldn't be a unit rate because the bottom number is not 1, but it is a rate. So yes for 1B. Number 2, the question is, what units does the rate compare? What units are we comparing? Well, we just look on the top, we're comparing miles to gallons, right? That is what we're comparing, miles to gallons. Okay, number 3, we were asked, write yes or no to tell whether each rate is a unit rate. If a rate is not a unit rate, then we need to rewrite it as a unit rate. Okay, so number 3, part A, is this a unit rate? Well, first off, are we comparing different units? Well, I see I'm comparing dollars to hours. So yep, I'm comparing different units. Is the bottom number 1? Yes, it is. So this is a unit rate. I make $2.75 per hour. Part B, 100 miles per 4 gallons. Am I comparing different units? I'm comparing miles to gallons. Okay, so it's a rate, but is it a unit rate? Is the bottom number 1? No, it's not. Okay, so no, no, this is not a unit rate, and in the directions it tells us if a rate is not a unit rate, we need to rewrite it as a unit rate. And so if we travel 100 miles on 4 gallons, how many miles do we travel on 1 gallon, right? We need the bottom number to be 1. And to get it to be 1, I can view this horizontal fraction bar as divided by. If I take the top number divided by the bottom number, that will tell me how many miles I can travel on 1 gallon. Well, what is 100 divided by 4? 100 divided by 4 is 25. So I travel 25 miles on, or 25 miles per 1 gallon. This would be the unit rate. Okay, number 4, part A. 200 square feet per 1/4 hour. Okay, is this a unit rate? Well, first off, is it a rate? Look at the top, we're comparing square feet to the number of hours. So we're comparing different units, but is our bottom number 1? Is the bottom number 1? Nope, it's 1/4. And so this is not a unit rate, but we need to make it a unit rate. So we're going to answer no, not a unit rate. Let's make it a unit rate. So we have 200 divided by 1/4. So 200 divided by, that's how I read the fraction bar, 200 divided by 1/4. I see that I'm dividing a fraction, so I know that's the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So I flip 1/4 to be 4, and I change from division to multiplication. 200 times 4, that is 800, right? 800 square feet per hour, per 1 hour. This, running out of room there, 800 square feet per hour would be the unit rate. Okay, part B. Part B, I have 2/3 pound per 15 minutes. Is this a unit rate? Well, on the top I'm comparing pounds, and the bottom I'm comparing minutes. So it is a rate, I'm comparing different units, but is the bottom number 1? Nope, it's not. So no, this is not a unit rate, and if it's not a unit rate, we need to make it 1. So to do that, I can divide the top by the bottom. 2/3 divided by 15. 2/3, top number, 2/3 divided by bottom number, 15. Okay, I'm dividing fractions. Let's keep the first one, 2/3. Flip 15 over 1, the reciprocal will be 1 over 15, and then change division to multiplication. All right, I can't cross simplify. 2 times 1 is 2, and 3 times 15 is 45. So I have 2/45 pounds, 2/45 pounds, LB, 2/45 pounds per 1 minute, right? Pounds are on top, minutes are on bottom. So this would be the unit rate, 2/45 pounds per 1 minute. Okay, two more examples, and we'll be done. Number 5 on your sheet says the Lawsons drive 288 miles in 6 hours. What is their average speed per hour? Okay, so they are traveling 288 miles, MI, per, or in, 6 hours, right? That is the rate given to us in the problem, 288 miles per 6 hours. And we want to know how many miles per hour, what is their average speed? To find that out, I could divide 288 divided by 6. So top number inside the division bracket, bottom number outside. Once you do the long division, you will see that 6 goes into 28 4 times, because 4 times 6 is 24. You would subtract, bring down your next digit, and 6 goes into 48 exactly 8 times. Right? So we are traveling 48 miles per hour, or I could write MPH, miles per hour. Last one, number 6 here. To make 2 batches of cookies, Jada needs to use 4 eggs. How many eggs are used in each batch? So we want to know eggs per batch. How many eggs in each batch? So we're comparing eggs, the number of eggs that we use per horizontal bar, eggs per batch. Well, we are told in the problem that Jada uses 4 eggs per 2 batches. So 4 eggs for 2 batches. And we want to know how many eggs for each batch, or how many eggs per batch. Well, to figure that out, I would take the top divided by the bottom. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So she uses 2 eggs per batch. 2 eggs per batch.